I watched Nosferatu 2 days ago now. But I wanted to talk about Anora instead, just because, like, personally, I was not a fan of Nosferatu. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was not a big fan of Nosferatu, bro. I was a big fan of Anora. I hated, I was not a fan of Poor Things. I loved Zola. Like, these movies that I'm mentioning, I don't know, all these movies, right, they're about women. But I think all four of them, like, I don't know how feminist they were, but the thing is, with all the four that I just mentioned, Zola, Poor Things, Nosferatu, and Anora, Zola is the only one directed, written by a woman. All the other ones were by men that are feminist, quote unquote. But even then, like, the idea of feminism, like actual feminism, like, I don't know, it's directed by a man. Like, it's still also like, I just really disliked Poor Things, bro. I could not get, okay, so it was my birthday. It was my birthday, dude. I was so excited. I'd never seen a Yorgos Lanthimos film before, ever. So I was, like, super excited. I got high before because I was like, oh, it's going to be so cool. And I don't know, it'll be fun. It'll be a fun experience. And then I watched it. And I just couldn't get it past my head that Emma Stone's character was, like, the brain of a fetus. So I was, like, And I think, like, that does add to what they were trying to say. But it's still, like, okay, like, that's still a fetus brain. Like, that's still a fetus brain experiencing all the things that character experiences throughout the film. So I could never get past that. And then I just completely disassociated from the movie. I was like, I wanted to walk out at certain times because I was like, I'm high as shit. I'm high as shit too. So imagine being high as shit, having that concept of this character in your brain for 2 hours and then watching that movie and being like, why am I watching this? This is, like, horrible like, experience. And also there was this one guy that, like, had an annoying laugh in the theater too, and he was, like, laughing at the grossest fucking jokes ever, and I was like, fuck you, dude. Like it's, I get the joke, but you're laughing at it the wrong way, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like when someone makes a satirical joke and it's like, okay, that's funny because of this, but he's laughing because it's it is not, you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, dude, ew. So yeah, and then but Zola is one of my favorite movies of 22. I think that's when no, I watched it in 21. I think that's when it came out. I don't remember, but I remember thinking, okay, this movie is. I saw the trailer and I was like, okay, this movie's gonna be whatever. Like, it's gonna be like some A24 bullshit. It was amazing. That was my favorite movie of 2020. Whenever the fuck I watched it, it was really good. My car is named Zola. I love the movie. I love the movie so much. Yeah, just the whole way through, it just feels like. It was so trippy. I feel like they put you in a trance the first 5 minutes for the rest of the film, and then at some point she, like, transcends existence, and I was like, what the fuck? Towards the end of that, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. When she's in that hotel room, I was like, what the fuck? That's so interesting. And don't get me wrong, like, it's not a perfect film by any means. I would not be against people talking down on it, because I will admit, like, it does feel like nothing really Zola doesn't really make any choices throughout the movie. It's kind of like the movie just happens to her, and she's kind of like this observer type character, versus, like, someone that's, like, actually driving the plot somewhere. But regardless, I still love it. It was my favorite movie that I saw in theaters that year. It was my favorite movie to come out that year. So yeah. Then you have Nora, which is another movie about a stripper, but completely different. And people have had mixed takes on it too. A majority of people have loved it. It won Cannes. But there's, like, that idea of feminism again still, obviously, of course, because, like, how could you, and even then, like, I'm not gonna lie, bro, it's kind of weird, bro. Sean Baker, like Mikey Madison, like, looks like his wife, bro. like, Shirley doesn't at all. They're just the same race. I'm being racist. But you know what I'm saying, right? Like, it's still like, okay, dude, like, it's kind of like the whole other situations with it. And also, like, he's a director too. So it's kind of like, okay, dude, like, what do you, he just, like, saw her. He said he saw her in Tarantino's movie, I think, in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and was like, that's it. That's what I want for Nora. But yeah, and also, like, the intimacy coordinator thing. That's kind of a, like, don't get me wrong. That's the thing too, is, like, I've had that thought of, like, hopefully you would be at for a film to be created at a level where the actors' trust in the director is so strong that they don't need an intimacy coordinator is a really cool idea, right? But in this kind of atmosphere, in this time that we're living in, it can be taken a certain way. So I understand why people are taking it that way. I'm not saying that Sean Baker or Mikey Madison, were pressured in certain ways, right? But I am open to believing that they had a high level of trust, and that's why she felt comfortable doing that. Also, I'm sure she would speak out if she were uncomfortable. But even then, that's kind of a whole me being a man type of thing. And, exactly. So it's kind of like, and also who am I to speak on that? So, yeah. But regardless, not regardless. I remember watching it. I watched an interview with him, with Sean Baker. And it was the directors, probably on directors. And they were talking about like, making stuff for the studio and like produce whatever the fuck, and how he pitched it at 2 hours and 10 minutes. And how he was like, oh, I can't get it under. I just need 10 more minutes. Like I need to. And, this is something that I'm going to have to deal with, And then I was watching it and I paid attention and I was like, okay, 2 hours, 10 minutes. Like you could end it there. What more do you have to say? Like, the story is kind of wrapped up. Like, you could just end it with that. If you know what happens in 2 hours, 10 minutes, it's the statue. It's a shot of that statue. So I was like, okay, that was kind of, I think that could have been a good way to end it. But then, and then that's the thing too, is like the next 5 minutes are bullshit scenes. Like, it's like very much like da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. But then the last scene is, the last scene completes the whole movie. And I love that so much. I think the endings are the most important parts of movies. So even then, right, for it to have ended in that 10-minute mark, that 2 hour, 10-minute mark, it would have been a mediocre ending, honestly. And I'm still trying to rationalize, like, no, he could have ended there. No, he couldn't have. He really couldn't have, because that last scene was everything for the movie, man. That last scene made the whole movie what it was, dude. Like, it was just, wow. And, one of people's biggest irks have been the idea that Mikey plays this stripper that is, like, ignorant to boys, like the one that she interacts with throughout the movie. Like how she kind of thought of it as like this fantasy getaway from the life that she was living. But in my head, I kind of interpreted it as her falling in love with him, I guess. At first, her being in love with him in the sense of like treating him like a pet. Like she was in control, and not in a way that she was like this big manipulative figure, to start controlling him. But in a way that was like, oh, she saw him and, he was cute and nice enough to be like, nice and just like a chill dude. So like she could see herself being married to this guy and just like living a life with him. Not in the sense that she's happy and like, oh my God, this is her escape. But in the sense that, okay, he's kind of dumb, but he's nice. I'll settle for this. I'm just going to keep on going from here. Yeah, I don't know. I think I didn't interpret her as being a dumb character. I interpreted it has her, being smart and recognizing, okay, he's a little bit dumb, but, yeah, I can have a stuff with him. But then I will say that then I read the log line, and the log line pitches it to you as the Cinderella story. So I was like, oh, I can see why people think that. But yeah, I'm really like, and that's the thing too, is I don't regard, what's funny is I never, okay, I just want to talk about Nosferatu then now at this point. With Nosferatu, I've never seen an Eggers film either. I was super excited to see Nosferatu too. This time I saw it with a friend. So yeah, it was chill. We watched it in a theater, and at some point there was a guy on his phone, and I was like, oh my God, dude. Like, what the fuck? I mean, it is a pretty boring fucking, it's just really slow, dude. And like, also then, like we walked out and we were just like, meh. There was a couple that walked out halfway through the movie. And I remember thinking like, we could walk out, but I want to know, I want to see the ending. I want to see how it ends. I was a fan of the scares. I was a fan of the scene with the carriage. I thought that was really cool. The scene of him at Warlock's castle was really cool too. I really did love Lily Rose Depp. Like, she was cool. But just like this, I've seen takes on TikTok and just like the rest of the internet, and they're saying like it's, a metaphor for a sexual assault. And I don't disagree with that. Like, and if you watch the ending, like, it's like, oh, what just happened? And for her to, sacrifice herself. But the reality is like, she was not in control of the situation, period. So she's in control of the situation to the extent that she's aware of what's happening, and she's going to take it like a badge of honor instead of this chip on her shoulder, but that doesn't take away that she's still like, you know, becoming a tool, like he's becoming objectified, like she's still, you know, this thing of protection, not an actual person that deserves to be listened to and cared for and like and treated with basic human decency, like, you know what I'm saying? So, and I don't know, people love it too. People love that movie a lot. People fucking love Nosferatu. You know, and I'm not, you know, against. I mean, I just didn't think it was a particularly interesting movie, and I'm disappointed. And then this thing too is with all four of these movies, they're all like, well, I don't know about Zola. That's the thing, is Zola was absent from this feminism conversation, right? It's a woman. I mean, well, that's the thing too, is I don't know, you know, because I would argue that, you know, Zola, again, like, the movie kind of happens to her. She's not really in control of many situations, right? I mean, that happens in all the movies too, regardless, right? I think in Poor Things, you know, Emma Stone does kind of take control towards the end, but still, it's kind of like, and Anora is just, you know, she's just the same, right? But I don't, you know, with these last few movies, like, they've all been in these conversations of feminism, and Zola, and, you know, you could argue COVID. And even then, I'd argue it's more of like an intersectionality thing. Like, she's a black character, black lead in this film. All the characters are white, so it's kind of like, you know. So I don't know. I think they're all, you know, interesting films to talk about. But I really disliked Poor Things, bro. I could not get behind that movie. Anora. That's the thing too. Is, okay, Anora did do something. The comedy was hilarious. I thought the middle half of the movie, that the like past the 40-minute mark, that's where it just goes in overdrive. It's so funny. Those guys, the Russian dudes are hilarious. They're like the best part of the film. But that last scene, man, that last scene makes the movie, like, truly. And Nosferatu, like, Lily Rose Depp is. I like the last frame. I thought that was an interesting frame. But just to work up from the beginning to end on that, like, you know, it completes the circle, right, from like the beginning of her begging and then having Nosferatu show up to the end of that kind of curse. But it's kind of, then it's like, well, what is that a metaphor for? And, you know, what is happening to women? How are women being treated? And then even then, how are the characters treating these women? And even then, why are all these actors that are 10 years plus older than these women? You know what I'm saying? So there's that younger dynamic, and it's just like, oh, this shit, bro. Like, it is kind of, you know, what are we trying to say here type shit, like, real. And then for it to, like, be plastered as, like, this feminist movie, it's kind of like, you know. And then you have people arguing about, well, like, what's feminist then? Well, it is not feminist. Then people are complaining, and you have all this argument about, you know, dividing stuff versus, like, actually achieving progress in giving women voices and working towards equality. I don't know. If you have thoughts, let me know, please. I hope you have a good day. If you watch this much, thanks for watching. Yeah, see you later, bro.